नमस्कारः। योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत् तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि. We have been discussing the Yoga Sutras of Bhagavan Patanjali. We have already discussed about the Darshanatvam of Yoga Sutras because it is a new philosophical system. One of the 6 Astika philosophical systems of Bharat origin. Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa are all the 6 come under the Astika Darshana systems. And of all these 6, this Yoga Darshanam of Patanjali stays very, very nearer to Vedanta Darshana. That is Advaita Vedanta Darshana. Though Yoga system believes that there are 2 Purushas. One is Jiva and another is Ishvara, which is not accepted by the Advaita system. That is why Yoga system, though it stays very closer in identifying the status of Atma, but it stops accepting Purusha as only one entity. It talks about more than one Purusha, which is not acceptable to Advaita Vedanta. But it is very strategic reason to bring people closer to Advaita Siddhanta and let them realize that there is no 2 but only 1. 2 is also only an image reflected in the mirror. There is only one object, but that when it is presented before a mirror, it shows 2 images. One is the real one, another one is the surreal one. Same way, the yoga though discusses about the 2 Purushas here, but the intention of Patanjali is also to help the sadhaka to realize the oneness of the Atma. So it is strategic decision of Patanjali to argue that there is not 1 but 2. In this Yoga Darshana, we had discussed about various ideas of the yoga in the Samadhi Pada. That is the first chapter of Yoga Darshana. We had discussed about the Samadhi. That is the ultimate aim of yoga also. If every idea under yoga is already explained in first chapter itself, then why would you require second, third, fourth? If this is the question, then the answer should be the expansion of the ideas discussed in the first chapter is happening in the second, third and fourth. Just like in films, cinema, it starts with the climax, then it goes to flashback. Same way here also, in first chapter, whatever is yoga is already discussed there, but again in second, third, fourth, in second pada it is samadhi sadhana pada, how one could attain this samadhi through various means. That is sadhanam. Sadhanam nama upakaranam. Upakaranam nama tool. What are all the tools that are available for the sadhaka to attain that samadhi? That is discussed in the second. Once this yoga is obtained, what are all the phalam, the outcome of yoga through various siddhis? But siddhis are only avantara phalam, or intermediary help to the sadhaka. That is phalam. That is the result of this, intermediary result of this yoga is attaining various siddhis. We have heard anima, mahima, garima, laghima, prapti, prakamyam, ishitvam, vashitvam. These 8-fold siddhis. And these siddhis are attained by the yogis. Yogis can attain all these siddhis. All these siddhis are explained in this Vibhuti Pada. Vibhuti means Aishwaryam. Vibhutir Bhutir Aishwaryam Animadikam Ashtadha. Anima Mahima Chaiva Garima Laghima Tatha Prapti Prakamya Mishitvam Vishishtam Chasta Siddhayaha. This is Amarakosha. So Ashta Siddhis are explained in detail in the Vibhuti Pada. The last pada, Kaivalya pada, discusses about what the Kaivalyam is all about. The Viveka Khyati, what is discussed in earlier chapters, this Viveka Khyati will lead you to Kaivalyam. There you will have the experience of being alone in this world without any attributives like this body, this Prakriti, Mahat, Ahankara, Tanmatra, Indriya, etc., etc. All these are not you. They are all only your extensions. When all these are no more there to matter, then all these will subside. Only you alone, the Atma alone will there exist. So this is how the entire Yoga Siddhanta as a darshana is to lead the sadhaka to moksha. All darshanas will show you the path of moksha, liberation from this janana marana samsara chakra. Various darshanas introduce you various approaches. But in Yoga Darshana, the approach would be to curtail the designs of our vrittis. That is why it is Atha Yoganuशाsanam Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. We started in the Samadhi Pada with this idea. What is yoga? Chitta Vritti Nirodha is yoga. So, the Samadhi Pada we started with Yogasya Anushasanam. So, the Hiranyagarbha, who was the first preceptor of this Yoga Darshana, that was already discussed in various Upanishads also. So, that is why the yoga, the Hiranyagarbha, he was the first preceptor of this yoga, and he was the first one to float the idea of yoga, which is already there in Vedas. Various Veda Shakhas in various Upanishads, the idea of yoga was already discussed, but Patanjali brought them all ideas together and he gave a format and gave us the Shastra in the form of Darshana. In the Sutra Rupa, in 4 chapters, he blessed the mankind for liberation from this samsara chakra. So this Yoga Sutra starts with Yogaha Chitta Vritti Nirodha. It is only when you are capable of stopping the vrittis, the businesses of all your mind waves. The mind takes various vrittis, and those vrittis are the rays or the penetrating rays of the mind reaches the object and it consumes various objects and reflects back in your Atma. Then the Atma believes that it is the Karta, it is the Bhokta. All these ignorant ideas emanate in the Atma due to the designs of these vrittis. So, in order to attain the Kaivalyam, what you need to do is to prevent all these vrittis from influencing your mind. So that is why you just samadhau, the dhatu, to attain this samadhi. Samadhi is nothing but staying alone, concentrating upon a singular object by severing the ties of the mind, which in turn connects with all the objects through various vrittis. So when the vrittis are curtailed, when the vrittis are no more there to effectively disturb you, then the yoga, that is samadhi, takes place by asamprajnata samadhi. All these things we have already discussed in our earlier chapters. I am just recapping before entering into the next chapter. So what are all the things that we had discussed earlier? We discussed about the chitta, what the chittam is in the tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. When the chittam is not in the samadhi avastha, when it is disturbed, when it is in the vyuthana avastha, vritti sarupya mitaratra, through the sutra, how the mind will take various forms of the vrittis. Whichever vritti goes there and consumes the same akriti of the object, the mind also takes. Vritti sarupyam itaratra. In that sutra we discussed about nirodhavastha, vyutthanavastha. Nirodhavastha is the samadhi. When the curtailed, the vrittis are curtailed, drashtu swarupe avasthanam. When there is no the prevention, when the vrittis are active, then vyutthanavasthayam vritti sarupyam, they take the form of the vritti, the mind takes the form of a vritti, and vritti consumes everything and gives back to the mind, and through mind it gets reflected in the Atma. So all these things were discussed in the earlier. For tat pratishedhartham nirodha, abhyasa vairagyabhyam tad nirodha, that was also discussed. Then later samprajnata samadhi, asamprajnata samadhis are briefly explained, and to attain this samadhi one should have the option of taking the help of Ishvara. That Ishvara, what is Ishvara? Who is Ishvara? The Ishvara Lakshanam was explained. Kleshakarma vipakashayir aparamrishtaha purusha visheshaha Ishvaraha. Then how the Ishvara is elder to all. So purveshamapi guruhu kale nanavachedad. All the, then what is the vachika of Ishvara, and what is the phalam of tajjapaha tadartha bhavanam, and what is the phalam of Ishvara pranidhana. There is tatah pratyak chetanadhigamaha apyantaraya bhavasya. By the viveka khyati, one will also at the same time obtain antaraya bhavaha. All the impediments will also go off. So 14 impediments were discussed, and Ishvara pranidhanadva. Then there also ekatatvabhyasa, tat pratishedhartham ekatatvabhyasaha. So all the vrittis pratishedhartham ekatasvasya Ishvara tattve abhyasaha. Then Maitri Karuna Muditopeksha, all the 7 sutras were there that gave us the idea of preparing the ground for the ekagrita. Chitta prasadanam. Yeah? Chittasya prasadanartham, to please the mind to stay at a particular object alone without being distracted towards various other things. For which 7 upayas were discussed. Then Paramanu Paramatmantosya Vashikara, how the Vashikara will take place thereafter. Then Kshinavrte Rabhijata Sevamanehe Grahitru Grahana Grahyeshu Tatsta Tadanjanata Samapattihi. All these Samapattis, Savitarka, Nirvitarka, Savichara, Nirvichara, all these things were discussed. Then Nirbijaha Eva Samadhi, where there is absolutely no trace of samsara, because upaya pratyaya alone will take you to asamprajnata samadhi. This bhava pratyaya will lead again you to samsara. Though the samadhi in samprajnata can happen, but still it is not the ultimate goal for the sadhaka. He should strive for going towards this asamprajnata samadhi. All these things we had discussed in the first chapter. Now we have come to the second chapter. Why the second chapter? What is special in the second chapter? The introduction to Kriya Yoga. The earlier Samadhi Pada is meant for those who have already practiced yoga in their earlier janmas and have attained some kind of a maturity, some level of achievement they have already seen in their life, but their life was curtailed in the middle. So in their next birth they start with from where they left it in their earlier janma. So there are 3 adhikaris are suggested in this Kriya Yoga. Okay, this Kriya Yoga, there are 3 adhikaris suggested in the Kriya Yoga. You see, there are Arudha Yoga is the one who is the Uttamadhikari, then Mandadhikari, the one who has started practicing yoga only now in recent times, is the Yunjana, and somebody who has not learned about yoga but now has understood the need, the necessity of the yoga, and who started exploring the ideas of starting with practicing of yoga. Then the starter is Rurukshu. The name of the starter with yoga abhyasa is Rurukshu, the one who has already started it and is in the first few steps is the Yunjana, and those who have already attained certain level of achievement are known as Arudha Yoga. So there are 3 adhikaris suggested in this yoga sadhana. So the first one, the Arudha Yogas, who have already ascended on the yoga padam, who have already ascended and have already been experiencing the samadhi also on and off. They start with Samprajñāta Samadhi, now they are slowly moving towards Asamprajñāta Samadhi. Often they sit in tapasya, they will forget themselves about for 1 hour, 2 hours times even, yeah. And slowly they are, through their Tivrata shown in the Samprajñāta Samadhi, will be led towards Asamprajñāta Yoga, Asamprajñāta Samadhi. Okay, so for them the Samadhi Pada was meant for. The earlier first chapter discussed about the yoga in detail that was meant for only those who have already started practicing and have already attained some kind of a level. From there now they have been trying again to reach the pinnacle of their the glorious part of the yoga abhyasa, that is the Atma Sakshatkara, Kaivalya. But for the Vyuthata Chittas, people who have not attained the level of controlling their mind, Ekagrita is not yet achieved. They are still in the process of achieving through various means. Yeah? For them, this Kriya Yoga is suggested. You see, Patanjalina Purvasmin Pade, Ekagra Chittasya Sadhakasya, the people who have already attained the Ekagra Chittam, for them, Yoga Upadishtaha. Ekagra Chittasya Sadhakasya, those sadhakas, those yogis who had already attained Ekagrita and they have already experiencing the Samadhi, for them, the yoga is suggested for those in the first chapter. Asmin Pade, in the second chapter, Yasya Sadhakasya Chittam Ekagram Nasti, those who have not yet achieved this Ekagrita, single pointed concentration is not yet been achieved. Tasya Krite, for only those sadhakas, this yoga Katham Sambhavati Ityuchyate. So, people who have not matured enough, people who have not attained the optimum level so far, are given this second pada, that is sadhana pada. So Purvam Savantara Bhedam Santaranga Sadhanam Sapalam Samadhim Abhidhaya. Avantara Bheda, Sampragnata, Asampragnata, all these Avantara Bhedas, Santaranga Sadhanam. Antaranga Sadhanam is Sampragnata Samadhi is Antaranga Sadhanam. Sapalam. What is the palam of that Samadhi? All those things have been already explained. Samadhyam Abhidhaya Adhuna. Now, Purva Abhita Sadhane, those who have already unable to join the first group, Apravartamana Samapakva Kashaya Karanam Prati. Those who yet to mature, those yet to qualify themselves to join the elite club. The first groups are elites one. The second group are not yet elites, but still they are in the progressing state. So, Adhuna Purvabhita Sadhane Apravartamana Samapakva Samyaka Apakvam Nannu Pakvame Adayala. This is not yet been ripened. Kashaya Karanam Prati. It's still not in the sweet taste. Still the Kashaya, the ripening is not yet fully happened. Kashaya Karanam Prati. Karanam nama Indriyam. Prati Manaha Prati Bahiranga Sadhanam Kriya Yogam Aha. Now this is Bahiranga Sadhanam Kriya Yogam is now being expounded. Tapasvadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhanani Kriya Yogaha. Tapaha Swadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhanam Etani Kriya Yogaha Ityachyate. In Ashtanga Yoga there will be Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. 8 Angas will be suggested, of which the Yama and Niyama will have 5 plus 5, 10 sadhanams. Ahimsa, Satyam, Asteyam, Shaucham, Aparigraham, Brahmacharyam, Aparigraham. These 5 will be brought under Yama. Shaucha, Santosha, Tapa, Swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhana. These 5 will be brought under Niyama. Of the 10, the 8th, 9th, 10th ideas are now brought here as Tapa, Swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhanani, Kriya Yoga. Of the Yama and Niyama, Yama has 5 constituent members and Niyama will also have 5 as constituent members. 5 plus 5, 10. Of the 10, the last 3, 8th, 9th and 10th are known as Kriya Yoga. If you could practice Tapaha, Swadhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhanam, these 3 form the structure of Kriya Yoga. Through Kriya, various Kriyas, you attain the same Samadhi that was achieved by Arudha Yogas suggested in the first chapter. So what is the Bhavartha here? Tapaha. Dvandva Sahanam. What is Tapa? Hita Mita Medhyashanam Tapaha. What is Tapa? Sukha Dukshna Shitoshna Sahatvam. That is Tapa. Kulir Veil. One should be able to absorb all kinds of experiences. There are very many dvandvas that we have. Duels. What are the duels that we have? Sukham Dukkham. What else? Manam Apamanam. Sheetam Ushnam. Very many duels that we have. Kulur Gartha, Kulur Tangala. Vayil Gartha, Vayil Tangala. The yogi should be able to prepare his body in such a way that he will be able to absorb both Shita and Ushna, Sukha and Dukkha. All these dvandvas, whatever we have, the yogi should be able to absorb all these dvandvas. So, Tapaha Nama Dvandva Sahanam. One should be able to absorb these dvandvas. That is Tapaha. Swadhyaya is Moksha Shastranam Adhyayanam. Whatever Shastra is there that suggests the Marga road that leads to Moksha. What are there? Brahma Sutram, Bhagavad Gita, Vedas. What are all the literature that we have that lead you to realizing the Atma? That is Moksha Shastranam Adhyayanam. This is for ordinary people. For yogis, sannyasis, only Pranava Japaha. Om, Om, Om. Swadhyaya is for samsaris, all the Vedas and scriptures. That is Swadhyaya. Tapas Swadhyaya Naratam, Tapasvi Vagvidambaram, Valmikim Paripapracha. In Ramayana you have Swadhyaya Narata. Every day one should be performing the Swadhyaya in the form of Brahma Yajnam. Have you heard about Brahma Yajnam? Every day a Brahmin should perform Sandhya Vandanam thrice. Early in the morning before the dawn, in the afternoon when the sun is atop, during the evening before the sun sets in the west, before the sun sets in the west, 3 times, Trikala Sandhya Vandanam. In the morning after Sandhya Vandanam, one should always be performing this Brahma Yajnam. Whatever be your Mula Shakha, Swashakha, Veda Shakha, some minor part should be every day chanted. This Brahma Yajnam, the Vedocharanam, that is why Auvayar suggested Oda Amal Varuna Alum Irika Vendam Vedo Nityam Adhiyatam. Adi Shankaracharya suggested it in his Sopana Panchakam. So Veda Nityam Adhiyatam. Every day, minor, at least some part of the Veda should always be chanted by everyone who is born as Brahmin. So Swadhyaya is part and parcel of the day-to-day life. We all perform various tapas. We perform Sandhya, we perform Puja, we sit in the puja room concentrating on the God, perform various rituals. All these things we do. So, some kind of the Kriya Yoga is being performed by all of us without realizing that we are doing it. Every day, we prostrate before Bhagavan and pray, Nalla Buddhiya Kudu. Anayasena Maranam, Vinadainyena Jeevanam, Dehime Kripaya Shambho, Tvayi Bhakti Machanchara. We pray to God every day. The Ishvara Pranidhanam, whatever we perform will give up the phalam to Ishwaran. Yes, we also do it in everyday Sandhya Vandanam. Kayena vacha manasendriyirva buddhyatmana va prakrite swabhavat karomi yadyat sakalam parasmi narayanayeti samarpayami. Of course, we do the Ishvara Pranidhana also. We perform the tapa in the form of puja and everything, Sandhya Vandanam. We do chant some portion of Veda every day. This Swadhyaya is also happening. We do the Ishvara Pranidhana also. So this is the Kriya Yoga that everybody, a believer who believes in our rituals, will always perform all these Kriya Yogas in his day-to-day life. But we don't realize that we do it in our day-to-day life. You see, Saha Dvandva Sahanam Tapaha Swadhyaya Moksha Shastranam Adhyayanam Evam cha Ishvara Pranidhanam Ishvare Sarvasam Kriyanam Arpanam. Whatever karma or kriya that you do, you give up the phalam of performing that particular action to Bhagavan. Narayanayeti samarpayami. So that is Kriya Yoga Padena Yetesham Trayanam Bodha Bhavati. By the Kriya Yoga, the Patanjali means these 3 things. What the Yoga Sudhakara had to say here, Hita Mita Medhyashanam Tapaha. You see, Saparada Kuda, you have to be in control while you consume your food. Hitam, whatever will do good to your body and mind. Adha sapadano. Kanda kuppayela sapada koodadu. Hitam, then mitam, alavoda sapadu. Have some measurement, some limit. Limited food. Unlimited food is not suggested for a yogi. A yogi has to measure his words, measure his food, measure his actions. Everywhere he has to bring in a kind of measurement. Something should be limited. No, without control he cannot do anything. So hita, whatever will be beneficial health wise, that is to be consumed. Hita. Mita, adum alavoda, with limitation. Medya, that which you consume should do good to your intellect. That is why this vengayam, poondu, all these things are suggested to be avoided. Because this vengayam, poondu, all these things through their smell will create a kind of tamasiki vritti in your mind. Why vengayam, poondu are all suggested in our shastras not to be taken by people who are into higher realms of the sadhana. Because for yoga sadhana or for the Ishvara pranidhana, the mind should always be in sattva state of mind. It should not be allowed to slip into rajo guna or tamo guna. That is why, but these vengayam, poondu, all these things through their smell alone will deviate you, will push you to the tamasaki vritti. That is why in order to avoid the tamo guna and rajo guna, you are required to avoid few things in your food. That is why we avoid, at least during Pitru Paksha, we avoid consuming various vegetables. During the Shraddha Paksha, whenever in the fortnight in which we perform Shraddham for our elders, that is our parents, at least during that time, we would avoid consuming all these things. That is suggested here. Hita mita medhya ashanam tapaha. What is tapa according to Sadashiva Brahmendra? Consuming the food which is both hita, that will be conducive for your health, mita in proportion, in limits, and medhya, that will do good to your intellect. One sattvatiliye irukka vaikkum, that will not allow you to slip into rajo guna or tamo guna by disturbing your chitta vritti. That is the tapa according to Brahmendra. Parama pavitra pranavadi mantra japaha swadhyaya. Parama pavitramana pranavam adi, all the mantras, Upanishads, stotras, mantras, various mantras, according, we have to perform Gayatri first. After having performed the Gayatri japa at required level, if it is the morning 108, in the afternoon 32, in the evening 64 times of Gayatri has to be performed. Thereafter only all other Kamya japas can be taken. Some might have taken some other upadeshas from various gurus. They would have given you some mantras. The mantra japa can happen only after performing the Sandhya Vandana. Without Sandhya, without Gayatri, no other japam will be of any use. All those additional things, without giving due respect to the, or within due space for the our Gayatri japa, will be of no use. Okay, that is why so many things are there in this explanation, Vyakhyanam. So, Parama Pavitra Pranavadi Mantra Japaha Swadhyaya. Ishvare Leelaya Svikrita Ati Manoharange Paramagaru Kaya Vag Manobhi Nirvartitaha Bhakti Vishesha Pranidhanam. What is Ishvara Pranidhanam? Paramagaru, Bhagavan. Because he is the Guru, is the eldest one. Who is the eldest one, most eldest? Your father, father's father. You can reach up to Brahma. Even this Ishvara is beyond the Brahma. There is Purvesham api Guru. Kalena Anavachedat. In this sutra, we had already discussed about the status of the Ishvara. So, Paramaguru is Ishvara for us. In him, Kaya Vang Manobhi. Manadalum, Vakinalum, எண்ணத்தல உடலாலும் நிர்வர்த்திதா செய்யப்பட்ட பக்தி விசேஷா, the exhibiting the bhakti, devotion toward the Bhagavan through kaya, body. என்ன பண்ணுவோம்? காயத்தினால் பண்ணக்கூடிய பக்தி என்ன? பிரதட்சணம், நமஸ்காரம். All these are bhakti, extension of bhakti through kaya that we perform. Manasa chintanam, vacha mantra pathanam, mantra uchcharanam. So vak kaya manobhi nirvartitah bhakti visheshah pranidhanam. Tani kriya rupatva, all these are actionables. So kriya rupatva yoga sadhanatva, these are all sadhanam for the yoga, tool for attaining samadhi. So kriya yoga is shuddha sarupya lakshana shrene rupyante ayurghrutam itivat itya. Why is kriya yoga to be performed? What is the prayojanam of this kriya yoga? Aduna Bhagavan Patanjali kriya yogasya prayojanam vadati. This kriya yoga will have some prayojanam. What is that prayojanam? Let me tell you. Samadhi bhavanartha klesha tanu karanarthascha. You have to realize this samadhi. Then only the moksha is possible for you. Samadhi bhavanartha. In order to realize the samadhyavastha, this kriya yoga is to be performed. Also, klesha tanu karanarthascha, to reduce the impact of the kleshas that are going to be expounded in next sutra. In order to reduce the impact of kleshas also. So, kriya yoga is performed for two things, to attain two results. One is samadhi bhavanartha. You have to attain the samadhi, you have to realize the samadhi suggested in earlier pada, and also by the same way, by same action, also to get rid of all the kleshas. The impact of the kleshas have to be reduced and removed from your system. For these two objectives, we perform kriya yoga. Kriya yoga samadhi bhavanartha klesha tanukaranartha cha bhavati. Samadhehe siddhyartham avidyadinam panchanam kleshanam alpikaranartham. Ella avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, all these things have to go. ಮೊದಲು ಎಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನ ಹಣೋ ಸ್ಥೂಲ ಮಾರ್ಗದ ಸೂಕ್ಷ್ಮ ಮಾಹಣೋ. You have to reduce their size first, then remove all of them. समाधेः भावनं निष्पादनम् अर्थः प्रयोजनं यस्य सः तथोक्तः समाधि भावनार्थः. तेवा क्लेशानां तनूकरणं शिथिलीकरणम् अर्थः प्रयोजनं यस्य सः तथोक्तः. सो तनूकरणं नाम reducing. அது சின்னதாக்கணும், அல்பமாக்கணும். இவ்வளோ பெருசாக இருக்கிறத கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சமாக சின்னதாக்கணும். இல்லையா? दीर्घकाल नैरंतर्य सत्कार अनुबंधी तप आदि क्रिया योगांगानुष्ठानेन क्लेशाः आदि क्लेशाः विशरारुतामिताः. विशरारुताम ना मोन मळुंगिय कत्ति. Sharpness is no more there. All these kleshas are very, very weaponized earlier. Now the weaponization is not there. They cannot act as weapons. They will all lose their sheen and they will never be able to disturb you thereafter. Vishararutamita santaha purushanyata khyatau anupapravayam jatayam. When the purusha khyati, this viveka khyati happens, anupapravayam jatayam, when there is absolutely no disturbance to that purusha khyati, samulakasham kashita bhavanti. All these kleshas will be totally removed from your chittam. The vrittis are vrittayah panchatayah klishtaha aklishtaha. These klishtaha, these klesha yuktaha. These are all the kleshas that are going to be suggested here. So to bring the samadhi, to experience the samadhi, and also to reduce and remove these kleshas, we have to perform this kriya yoga. Kleshanam vishaye varnayati. What are the kleshas? Please explain. Kete kleshaha kiyantaha ityapekshayamaha avidya asmita raga dvesha abhiniveshaha. These are all the 5 kleshas. Avidya. What is avidya? Ajnanam, ignorance. Asmita, aham mama iti bhavaha. The pride, I, ego. Nothing but asmita is nothing but our ego. I, non, mama, ennodadu. Ahanta, mamata, Tamil agandai, mamadai. சொல்கிறோம் இல்லையா? அது அஹந்தா மமதா இஸ் தி அஸ்மிதா. ராகா வி ஆல் நோ, டிசைர்ஸ், ஆசக்தி, விருப்பம், ஏதோ ஒரு விஷயத்தில் ஒரு அட்டாச்மெண்ட். துவேஷா அனாசக்தி, ஒரு டிட்டாச்மெண்ட். இது பார்த்தா சில பேர் பார்த்தாலே பிடிக்கலையே, கோபமாக வருதே, அதான் துவேஷ. அபினிவேஷ மரணாத் பயம். Abhinivesha is not only Maranat Bhayam, there are several things which we have been addicted to. That is Abhinivesham. என்ன மன அழுத்தம் பாரு உனக்கு. Sometimes we call someone மன அழுத்தம்னா they are very very strong in their idea. Whatever reasons that you say, they are not convinced. They will hang with whatever they have already, the decision that is taken. That is also Abhinivesha according to Ayurvedic system. So these 5 are basic impediments. Purusham kleshayanti. Purusham yaha purusha jiva tam kleshayanti dukhi kuruvanti iti kleshaha. Te pancha. They are 5 in number. Atha अस्मितादीनाम अविद्या निदानत्वमः. अविद्या अस्मिता राग द्वेष अभिनिवेशाः, they of them अविद्या क्षेत्रम उत्तरेषां प्रसुप्त तनु विच्छिन्न उदाहरणाम्. अत्र क्लेशानां कारणं किं? Why these क्लेशास do occur to the Purusha? Atha asmitadinam avidyadi nidanamaha. The avidya is the basic idea from which this prasupta tanu vichhinna udara, all the asmita raga dvesha abhinivesha, asmita raga dvesha abhinivesha 4 are divided by these 4. Prasupta asmita, तनु अस्मिता, विच्छिन्न अस्मिता, उदार अस्मिता. प्रसुप्त राग, प्रसुप्त द्वेष, प्रसुप्त अस्मिता, प्रसुप्त राग, प्रसुप्त द्वेष, प्रसुप्त अभिनिवेश. This all the 4 are again divided by these 4. So prasupta tanu vichhinna udara, 4 states. All the 4 asmita raga dvesha abhiniveshas will undergo this prasupta avastha, tanu avastha, vichhinna avastha and udara avastha, for which avidya is the basement, from where avidya kshetram na avidya is the base for uttaresham. For what are the uttara? Asmita raga dvesha abhinivesha. All these 4 are affected by this prasupta avastha, tanu avastha, vichhinna avastha and udara avastha. So avidya अस्मिता राग द्वेष एवं अभिनिवेश इति चतुर्णाम क्लेशानाम कारणम अविद्या अस्ति. The 4 succeeding kleshas are emanating from this avidya. Avidya is the source for the succeeding 4. एतेषां चतुर्णां क्लेशानां चतस्रः अवस्थाः भवन्ति. 4 states for these 4 क्लेशास. What are they? प्रसुप्त, तनु, विच्छिन्न, उदार. योगाभ्यास बलात् ये क्लेशाः सुप्त स्थितिं प्रापिताः. By the experience of yoga, every day when you perform the yoga abhyasa balat, by the strength of the yoga abhyasa that you have performed, ye kleshaः suptaः. These in mobile, if you don't use apps installed in your system, mobile, after a while they will all go into the sleeping mode. Your system will itself suggest these are all the apps not used so far for many long time, so they will be put into the sleeping mode, because those apps will not be active. You need to activate them again if you want to use them. You might have downloaded so many apps in your mobile, but if you don't use those apps, after a while the system itself will go to sleeping mode. Same way, through the yoga abhyasa balam, strength, when you are able to make all these things in the sleeping mode, that is prasupta avastha. You see, योगाभ्यास बलात् ये क्लेशाः सुप्त अवस्थां प्रापिताः तूंग्र स्टेट को पोयाच because they are not active, they are unable to perform their duty, so they are in the sleeping mode. That is the prasupta avastha. ये दुर्बलाः कृताः ते तनवः by which are now use पढ़लेने ना हो. The battery if not used loses its power. அப்புறம் வெச்ச பேட்டரி உள்ள போட்டாலும் கூட என்ன ஆகும், without charge, without use, the battery will also lose its power. அப்ப दुर्बलाः, they will not be very much powerful. So ये दुर्बलाः कृताः ते तनवः in the तनु अवस्था. ये अन्य क्लेशेन अभिभूताः, if some klesha is dominating, then the other klesha will be not able to get stronger because it will be subdued by another klesha. So ye anyena kleshena abhibhutaha te vichhinnaha. One klesha will be totally dominated by another powerful one. So when the powerful this thing comes, another klesha will be subdued. இல்லையா? சந்தோஷமா இருக்கும்போது திடீர்னு ஒரு துக்க வார்த்தை கேட்ட உடனே என்ன ஆகும், இந்த சந்தோஷம் குறைபடும். We are enjoying, we are celebrating something, but some news comes which is not to your liking. Immediately what happens, your mood goes, you will be in the dukkha mode. Immediately all the celebration will stop. You see, same thing we are experiencing our day-to-day life. So ekasmin kleshe uchite anyah kleshah नष्टः भवति, तद् विच्छिन्नावस्था. ये अन्य क्लेशम अभिभवन्ति ते उदारः. Someone which can dominate the other kleshas, they udaraha bhavanti. This is how 4 states these 4 kleshas undergo. Prasuptaha tanavaha vichchinnaha udarascha asmitadayah chatvarah. Tesham uttaresham avidya bhava rupo viparyayah sa kshetram prasava bhumihi. So avidya is the source, fountain source for rest. Asmita ragadvesha abhiniveshaha. तत्र प्रसुप्तत्वं प्रबोध सहकारस्य अभावेन dominating help ஒன்னு இல்லாததனால அனபிவ்யக்தி, they are unable to exhibit themselves. தனுத்வம் பிரதிபக்ஷ பாவனா சிதிலீகரணம், whatever we had discussed earlier, that is the same thing in other words is explained here. பிரதிபக்ஷ பாவனையா சிதிலீகரணம், வேற ஒரு ஐடியா டாமினேட் பண்ணும்போது இது கீழே போயிடும். that is தனுத்வம். விச்சின்னத்வம் பலவதா கிளேஷேன அபிபவः, some powerful klesha will subdue this. உதாரத்வம் சககாரி சந்நிதிவசாத் காரியகாரித்வம், சரியான conducive atmosphere வந்ததுன்னா everyone will start acting. that is உதாராவஸ்தா. Atha avidya swarupam. What is avidya? Let us explain what avidya is. Anitya ashuchi dukkha anatmasu shuchi sukha atmakhyatihi avidya. Anitya ashuchi dukkha anatmasu nitya shuchi sukha atmakhyatihi avidya. Anitya vastuni nityatayaha bhavaha, that whichever is not a permanent one, only a temporary one, but you perceive it as something which is very very permanent. Anitya vastuni, whichever is not a nitya one, is only a temporary one, a perishable one, but you conceive, you think that it is permanent one. Apavitra vastuni pavitratayaha bhavaha, something which is not very sacred, but you still feel that it is something very pure, or that is pure. Whichever is impure, you consider it as to be a pure one. Okay. अपवित्र वस्तुनि पवित्रतायाः भावः. एवं दुःखशीलेषु वस्तुषु सुखानुभूतिः. Whichever is the cause of dukkha, but you construe it as a cause for sukha. எல்லாமே மாறுதல், விபரீதமா புரிஞ்சக்கூடிய எல்லாமே அவித்யையுடைய காரணத்தினால் ஏற்படுகிறது. दुःखशीलेषु वस्तुषु सुखानुभूतिः. एवं च आत्मभिन्न शरीरादिषु आत्मभावः. यदि आत्मावाः इल्लयो இந்த शरीरम, the शरीरम is not atma, but you believe that शरीरम is atma. इति सर्वम अविद्या इति कथ्यते. What are all the ideas come under the broader idea called avidya? அத்தஸ்மின் தத்புத்தி, எதுவாக எது இல்லையோ அது அதுவாக இருப்பதாக நினைத்துக் கொள்ளுதல். சுக்தி, that is கிளிஞ்சல், a shell which is not a silver, but that object that which is not silver but construed to be silver by someone due to the ajnana. Atasmin tadbuddhi. Shuktikayam nama arajate shuktikayam शुक्तित्व ज्ञानम तदेव अतस्मिन् तद्बुद्धिः विपर्ययः इत्युक्तम्. मिथ्या ज्ञानं विपर्ययः, ऑलरेडी वी हैव डिस्कस्ड प्रमाण विपर्यय विकल्प निद्रा स्मृतयः, दैट विपर्ययः इट इज सो तद्यत अनित्ये स्वर्गादौ नित्यत्वाभिमानः. स्वर्गमल क्षीणे पुण्ये मर्त्यलोकं विशन्ति. वन्स यू एग्जॉस्ट ऑल योर पुण्यम द स्वर्गवासा विल बी no more there. You will be sent back to bhumi, go be born again and perform punyam and come back to swargam. Nobody is guaranteed a permanent stay in this swarga, but only a temporary vasa is there in the swarga, but that is also taken for he takes, that is something very permanent one. So anitya, totally impermanent one, swargado nityatvaabhimanah. என்னமோ சொர்க்கத்தை நித்தியமா இருக்க போறோம்னு ஒரு நினைப்பு. அசுச்சௌ மாம்ச அசுருக்கு பூய விண் மூத்ராதிசாலினி காயே சுச்சித்வ பிரத்யா. இந்த உடம்பு இருக்கே, திஸ் இஸ் மேட் ஆஃப் மாம்சம், ஃப்ளஷ், அசுருக்கு ரத்தம், பிளட், பூய அதில் இருக்கக்கூடிய போன் மேரோ, விட்டு இஸ் தி ஃபீக்கல் மேட்டர், மூத்ர யூரின், இட்ஸ் ஃபுல் ஆஃப் ஆல் தி டர்ட்டி திங்ஸ் வி ஹாவ் இன் அவர் பாடி. வெளியில் பூசி இருக்கு தோல்னால. தஸ்மின் காயே சுச்சித்வ பிரத்யா. Every 5th hour you will develop kind of dirt in your body. வேர்வை வந்ததுன்னா என்ன ஆகும்? When the body sweats, obviously the body will collect mala. Sweda is also mala. That is why you need to take ஸ்நானம். வெயில் காலத்தை 2 தடவை குளிக்கிறோம், குளிர் காலத்தை மினிமம் 1 தடவையாவது குளிக்கிறோம். So குளியல் is to get rid of all the dirt that the body had collected. शरीर मल निवारणार्थम स्नानम. अतः अशुचौ मांस असुरिक पूय विण मूत्रादिशालिनी काये शुचित्व प्रत्यय. अशुचि अशुद्धமான உடம்புல சுத்தம்ங்கற நினைப்பு. சோப்பு போட்டு தேய்ச்சி குளிச்சா போடுமா? Any soap, any scent, anything cannot make your body clean permanently. அந்த குளிச்ச 1 மணி நேரத்துக்கு ஃப்ரெஷ்ஷா இருக்கும் பாடி, then again it will undergo the same thing. So tatra dukhe srakchandana vanitadu sugatvaropah. எது ஆல்வேஸ் சுகம் தரும்? வாட்? சரக். மாலை போட்டுக்கிறது. எப்பவுமே மாலை போடுவானா? சரக்குங்கிறது இங்கே பவர். யூ cannot be in power always. 5 years ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா எலெக்ஷன் நடக்கும்போது மக்கள் ஒன்று தூக்கி எறிவாங்க, then you will lose the power. So மாலை கீழ் all these recognitions, honors will not be, they will sometimes create a kind of dukkham to you also. So dukkha, sarakhi, chandanam, vanita, ladies, women, all these things cannot be the cause of sukham always. They can turn towards dukkham anytime. So dukkhe sarakchandana vanitadu sukhatvaropah. You feel that there is sukham in all these things, but they are not permanently sukham. They will always after some time will turn to dukkham. Anatmani dehadu. This deha is not atma, but still you think the body is the atma. Atma buddhi ityavidya chatushpada. 4 legs it had. Avidya moolam asmitam aha. Avidyayaha avidya moolam yasyaha asmitayaha. இந்த அவித்யை தான் முன்னாடி இருக்கக்கூடிய அஸ்மிதா, ராக துவேஷ அபினிவேஷங்களுக்கெல்லாம் காரணம் இல்லையா? தென் வாட் இஸ் அஸ்மிதா? இட் இஸ் நவ் பீயிங் எக்ஸ்பிளைன்ட் ஹியர். துர்தர்ஷன சக்தியோஹோ ஏகாத்மதா ஏவ அஸ்மிதா. என்னது? திருக்ஷக்தி அப்படின்னா புருஷ சக்தி, சித்தி சக்தி, தர்ஷன சக்தி அது புத்தி. புத்தி தான் அகங்காரத்தினால பரிணாமம் அடைந்து விருத்திகள் வழியாக பஞ்சபூதங்கள் இப்படி பெருவடைந்து சப்தஸ்பரிச ரூபரசகந்தமாக உலகமாக தெரியுது. Both are totally different. Drikshakti, Purusha Shakti bhinna, Darshana Shakti, Buddhi Shakti bhinna. But etayoh dvayoh madhye ekatayaha bhavaha asmita. But you take both of them together. Rendu onnu nanichikra. That is this asmita. புரியுதா? கண்ணாடியில் தெரிகிற இமேஜ் தான் நான் அப்படின்னு கண்ணாடியில் இருக்கிற இமேஜ் போய் ஒருத்தம் கல்லால் அடித்தாருன்னா உனக்கு எதாவது வலிக்குமா? இப்போ என்ன பண்ணுறா, உருவ பொம்மை எரிக்கிறான், ஒரு ஆளுடைய இமேஜ் வச்சு அதை செருப்பால் அடிக்கிறான், கல்லால் அடிக்கிறான். ஆக்சுவலி உனக்கு ஒன்றும் வலிக்க போகிறது இல்லை. இதே மாதிரி சேம் வே ஹியர் ஆல்சோ துர்தர்ஷன சக்தியோ ஏகாத்மதா. दृक्शक्ति आत्मशक्ति चित्तशक्ति दर्शनशक्ति बुद्धिशक्ति द्वयो एकात्मत्वम एरंडू ओन्नु निनैच्चिक्किरदु. The idea that both are quite different, but when you construe at both are only one, not two, then that is asmita. There is also a klesha. That is the reason for ego. யாராவது ஒன்று பாட சொன்னால் நான் பாட மாட்டேன், வெக்கமாக யாராவது நான் தப்பாக பாடுன்னு சிரிச்சிருவாளோ. Nobody is going to look at you. Why we all makeup ஏன் போட்டுக்கிறோம்? Nobody is going to be concerned about how you look. But still, whenever we go out, we do all these things because we have the same ego that we want to look good. Whether someone looks at me or not, I should look myself as a beautiful one. That's why I do all these prasadhanam due to the asmita. So sattva purushayoho ahamasmi iti ekataabhimanah asmita. Rat is raga sukhanushayi raga. सुखस्य प्रतीतेः पश्चात् चित्ते सुखम सुख साधनानि प्रति तृषा भवति. Once you experience the sukham, every time you will be longing for the same sukham. You will run behind that sukham. Where the sukham is, where the sukham is, where the sukham is. இல்லையா? ஒரு சின்ன குழந்தை அம்மாட்ட ஒரு தடவை பால் குடிச்சதுன்னா whenever it doesn't feel thirsty, it doesn't feel the fussy also, it also wants to have the comfort of doing this. Okay, all the once the sukham somehow you experience, all the time the mind will go after the sukham. அங்கே சுகம் இருக்கு, இங்கே சுகம் இருக்கு, அங்கே போ, இங்கே போ. ஆல்வேஸ் லுக் ஃபார் தி கம்ஃபர்ட். சுகானுஷயி ராகா. ராகா இஸ் நத்திங் பட் கோயிங் ஆஃப்டர் தி ஆப்ஜெக்ட்ஸ் தட் கிவ் யூ தி ப்ளஷர். சுக அபிஜ்ஞஸ்ய சுக அனுஸ்மிருதி பூர்வகம். சுகம் ஏற்கனவே தெரியும், ஐ ஹவ் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ்ட். தத் அனுஸ்மிருதி பூர்வகம், அந்த ஞானம் ஒரு சம்ஸ்காரத்தை ஏற்படுத்தி, தட் வாஸ் கிரியேட்டட் இம்ப்ரெஷன் இன் மை மைண்ட். ஸோ சுக சாதனேஷு, ஸோ வாட் எவர் சாதனம் தேர் விச் குட் காஸ் comfort to me, I will go after them. So that is Trishna Rupa Raga. So Raga is nothing but going after the objects which you feel that causes for the comfort, pleasure. That is Raga. Dukkhanushayi Dvesha. So Dukkhanushayi Dvesha, Dukkasya Pratitehe Paschat. Sometimes you feel discomfiture somewhere. The moment you understand this is the cause for my dukkham, then you try to avoid in your life thereafter. தெனாலிராமன் கதையில் பூனைக்கு பால் கொடுப்பான். ஒரு தடவை சூடான பால் குடிச்சப்பறம் அடுத்த தடவை நல்ல சுவையான ஆறின பால் வச்சா கூட அந்த பூனை குடிக்காது. பிகாஸ் த பூனை ஆல்ரெடி ஹேட் தி எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் ஆஃப் துக்கம். நாக்கு வச்சு சுட்டு போச்சு. தென் thereafter the பூனை, the bidala, the cat would never be interested in tasting the milk there because it has already experienced the dukkham in its life. Same thing happens here. Dukkha abhijñasya, once you had experienced the discomfiture, tad anusmriti purasaram, the jnanam, the experience of the dukkham will always lead you and you will try to avoid wherever you find dukkham. ஐயோ அந்த நான் போக மாட்டேன்ப்பா, அந்த பஸ்ஸில் ஏறினாலே கடகடன்னு இருக்கும். ஒரு தடவை பஸ்ஸில் போய்ட்டு லாஸ்ட் சீட்டில் உட்காந்துட்டு தூக்கி போட்ட அப்புறம் நெக்ஸ்ட் டைம் யூ வில் நெவர் லைக் டு சிட் இன் தி ஐயோ வேண்டாமா, ஐ வில் கேன்சல் த டிக்கெட், ஐ won't travel in the last week because I have already experienced the dukkham. So no more such experience I would want. Same thing, dukkha abhijñasya tad anusmriti purasaram tat sadhaneshu, whatever be the sadhanam for the dukkha, tatra ninda dvesha ityartha. When you don't want to experience the same thing, that is the dvesha towards that thing. Swarasavahi vidishopi tatha rudha abhiniveshaha. स्वरसवाही यथा सर्वेषु प्राणिषु तथा एव विद्वत्सु अपि स्वाभाविक रूपेण दृश्यमानः मरणोभय रूपः संस्कारः अभिनिवेशाख्यः क्लेशः कथ्यते. This abhinivesha uniformly happens to both a child and a vidwan. எல்லாருக்கும் இயற்கையிலேயே இருக்கக்கூடியதான ஒரு கைண்ட் ஆஃப் ஐடியா பாருங்க. யதா சர்வேஷு பிராணிஷு ததா வித்வத்சு, பிராணிலேருந்து புழு பூச்சியிலேருந்து ஆரம்பிச்சு வித்வான் வரைக்கும் அகம் ஆத்மா நாம் ஆத்மா தேகா ந ஆத்மா அகமேவ ஆத்மா எல்லா வேதாந்தம் தெரிஞ்சவங்க அத்தனை பேரும், ஈவன் தோஸ் scholars in shastras, but all these people experience this abhinivesha. What is this? Yatha sarveshu pranishu tatha vidvatsu api swabhavika rupena drishyamanaha marana bhaya rupaha samskaraha. They are all afraid of maranam. ஒரு காக்கா கிட்ட கிட்ட போனா ஏன் பறக்கிறது? A crow, when you approach even to offer a biscuit, but it will fly because it is afraid of you. Why it is afraid? Because you might harm. That is the bhayam. ஆடு மாடு மனுஷன் புலி சிங்கம் பாம்பு, all the creatures are afraid of maranam. So that is why they avoid. Wherever they feel that could be the cause for their maranam, they will run away from that place. Same way, this marana bhayam, when the death nearer you is very in your vicinity, in any moment the doctors declare this person will not survive for more than 3 hours, 4 hours. When someone is still in the senses, he will start feeling the bhayam. In Subramanya Bhujangam, Shankaracharya says, प्रशांतेन्द्रिये नष्टसंज्ञे विचेष्टे भयोत्कंपि कपोद्गारि वक्त्रे भयोत्कंपि गात्रे प्रयाणोन्मुखे मयि अनाथे तदानीं द्रुतं मे दयाळो भवाग्रे गुहत्वम्. Same thing is now described by Adi Shankara Bhagavad-pada in Subramanya Bhujangam. The marana bhayam everyone experiences. So this is samskara of marana bhayam, abhinivesha. Swarasatah pravahashilah, automatically because you are born, this is quite natural for you to have this bhayam. Pravahashilah vidusha api, not only for ordinary people, even the scholars also will undergo this experience. Moodhavat arudha ubhayatrasah abhinivesha. Purva janma anubhuta marana dukkha anubhava vasana balat. In last janma you had experienced the maranam. That maranam will cause us pain when you are newly born. Poranda konda yen alardu. The reason for a newborn baby for crying is that it is remembering, it is able to recollect the last moments of its earlier life. That is why the experience causes the pain in its mind. That is why the newborn child cries not for any pussy or anything, but this experience of the death of the earlier janma. Sarvasya pranabhanmatrasya akrimehe, krimila aramcha, from the insects vidusha sanjayamanaha sharira vishayadehe mama viyogo mabhut. I am not to be leaving this sharira. இந்த விஷயங்கள்லேருந்து எனக்கு பிரிவு வரக்கூடாது. I should always be with the samsara. That is the pratyam nimittamantarena, without any reason pravartamanaha ubhayarupaha abhiniveshaha. Te pratiprasavaheyaha sukshmaha. All these things have to be, for a yogi, all these to be withdrawn. How? These pancha kleshaha sukshmaha pratiprasavaheyaha taktavyaha. How to reduce them? You have to reduce them to a smaller size and get rid of them. Kriya yoga dwara, when you perform the kriya yoga, chittasya vilayate, when the chittam also goes down, avidyadeyaha pancha kleshaha api sukshmavastham prapya swayameva nashta bhavanti. Until you get rid of this chittam mind, these kleshas will also be there. When you get rid of this chittam, the kleshas will also go off. Chittasya nivrittadhikarasya prakrito pralayaha pratiprasavaha. When the chittam becomes one with the prakriti, then the prakriti also loses its sheen, its existence, all the kleshas also, when they are already you have reduced them to a smaller size, and they also will go off. Tena heyaha sukshmaha kleshaha. Swamulabhuta chittaha. Now, the origin of the kleshas are the chittam. When the chittam itself is lost, all those samskara rupa sukshmaha kleshaha also samulaghatam hataha bhavanti. All these will also go out. So, until and unless you win over the chittam, these kleshas will at least remain in sukshma avastha. Even to get rid of the sukshma kleshas, you have to get rid of the chittam. The chittam will go through the nirbija samadhi. The chittam will also be liquidated and exhausted. So chittam will never be there. So kleshas will also never be there. Thank you.